She didn't even notice him when he walked into the tiny café. Another tired office worker, another face passing through her quiet little world. Mira wiped her hands on her apron, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and focused on the only thing she could control, making food with care. That was her peace, her escape, her way of reminding herself she still mattered. He sat in the corner silently, as if the air around him carried a kind of heaviness. He didn't look up, didn't speak, didn't even take off his coat. And yet, something about him made her pause. Maybe it was the loneliness in his posture, or the way he held his breath like he hadn't rested in years. She didn't ask what he wanted. She simply placed a small plate in front of him, a simple salad she made for staff meals, fresh, honest, nothing fancy. She apologized in her head, convinced he'd think it was too plain. Men like him usually demanded more, expected more. But the moment he took a bite, he stilled. Not a normal stillness, this was different. His fingers tightened around the fork, his eyes lowered as if he were fighting something inside himself. He wasn't tasting vegetables, he was tasting a memory. Something warm. Something forgotten. Something that hit him harder than he expected. When he finally looked up at her, his gaze wasn't sharp or cold like men with money usually had. It was soft.
Disarmed.
Almost vulnerable. A kind of softness Mira had never seen directed at her in her entire life. She stepped back, confused. "Sir? Is it okay?" she asked quietly. He didn't speak, just nodded once, as if words wouldn't do justice to what he felt. For a moment, they just stared at each other, two strangers connected by a dish that wasn't meant to be special, yet somehow was. Then he stood abruptly, placed money on the table, far more than the price, and walked out without looking back. But Mira wasn't offended. Something about the way he left felt unfinished, like he was running from a feeling he didn't know how to handle. What she didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that the man who just tasted her simple salad was Adrian Vale, the coldest, most unreachable CEO in the city. A man whose heart no one had ever touched. And that night, long after the cafe closed, the doorbell rang again. It was a delivery order, all in his name. He had ordered the entire cafe menu, every dish on it, just to figure out which flavor belonged to the girl who made his world stop for the first time in years. Adrian came back the next morning without the slightest hesitation, same corner seat, same cold expression trying to hide the warmth he didn't want anyone to notice. He didn't speak, didn't order, didn't even pretend to look at the menu. He just waited for her. Mira approached cautiously, still unsure why he had ordered half the cafe's menu last night. He looked up the moment she stepped near, as if her presence was the only thing pulling him out of a dark room inside his mind. "You're here again," she whispered, almost surprised. He cleared his throat. "Your salad. It was good." He said it stiffly, like the word good was too personal for him. But she smiled anyway, a small, gentle smile that hit him harder than he expected. Something inside his chest tightened, something he thought he had buried under years of power, deals, and emotionless days. From that day on, he returned every afternoon, always dressed in the same plain clothes. Mira assumed he was a quiet office worker who needed a break from life. She didn't know he owned half the skyscrapers in the city. She didn't know that every time he watched her chop vegetables or hum under her breath, he forgot about the ruthless world waiting outside. What she also didn't know was that he was watching everything, how she treated customers with patience, how she saved the best portions for the elderly, how she always smiled even though her eyes carried old exhaustion. He noticed all the tiny details about her, details no one else cared to see. His staff noticed his change first. Their CEO, the man who never took lunch breaks, was missing from the office every day at the same time. Meetings were postponed. The calls went unanswered. 10 years' worth of work routines shattered just because one girl made him feel human. Meanwhile, Myra's life quietly started changing. Her landlord, who used to threaten eviction, suddenly backed off. The cafe's failing equipment mysteriously got repaired overnight. And the street she walked home on, dangerous, dimly lit, now had security guards patrolling it every evening. She didn't connect the dots. But Adrian did everything silently from the shadows, making sure no one ever knew. Her coworkers began whispering behind the counter. "Ye bonda daily kyanada hai?" He stares at you like you're important. "Mira, is he in love with you?" She laughed it off, too shy, too humble to believe anyone like him could ever look at someone like her. She was used to blending in, being invisible, living quietly. But Adrian didn't think she was invisible. He saw her as the one light in a world full of noise and lies. The only person who looked at him without fear, expectation, or greed. His right-hand man tried to warn him one evening. "Sir, if the media finds out about her, they'll destroy her life." Adrian didn't blink. "Then I'll protect her harder." But the cafe owner had already sensed something. One slow afternoon, he leaned close to Mira and whispered softly, "Beta, wo jo razada haina, he's not who he looks like. People like him don't hide in cafes without a reason." Mira smiled, shaking her head, because she thought the idea was ridiculous. But the truth was already on its way, dangerously close. The night everything changed started like any other. Mira left the cafe late, the streets quieter than usual, her footsteps echoing softly. She hugged her thin jacket closer. Weather was colder, but she couldn't afford a thicker one yet. She didn't notice the two men following her. They weren't drunk. They weren't lost. They were waiting, watching. One of them called out, "Hey, sweetheart, where are you rushing off to?" Mira froze, fear slicing straight through her chest. Before she could react, they stepped closer, too close. And then, out of nowhere, a hand gripped one of the men's shoulders with a force that made him choke. The second man stumbled backward as someone stepped between them like a silent storm. Adrian. But not the quiet, disguised regular customer she thought he was. This was him without the mask, sharp eyes, commanding presence, dangerous aura, the real Adrian Vale. "Walk away," he said, voice low enough to freeze the air. The men ran without a fight, because something in his eyes promised consequences no one wanted to test. Mira stared at him, trembling. "Why you? How did you even? Why were you here?" He didn't answer immediately. His jaw was clenched too tight. She'd never seen him angry, but this wasn't anger, it was fear. For her. "I've been following you home for weeks," he finally said, voice rough. "Not to control you. Just to make sure you were safe." Her heart dropped. "Adrian, what are you saying?" That's when his security team rushed in, black suits, earpieces, cars with tinted windows. They surrounded them within seconds. She stepped back, eyes widening. This wasn't normal. This wasn't an office worker. This was power. Real power. Her breath caught as one of the guards addressed him. "Sir, your board is waiting. We need to get you back, Mr. Vale." Mr. Vale. Everything inside her stopped moving. She looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly the expensive watch beneath the cheap coat made sense. The way people stared at him when he walked in made sense. The quiet confidence. The way the world seemed apart for him. "You're Adrian Vale," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the name everyone in the city knew. He took a slow breath. "I didn't want you to find out like this." Her heart sank, her hands shaking. "So you lied to me this whole time?" "Mira, you let me talk to you like some normal customer. You let me think you were just human." The hurt in her words sliced through him deeper than any business betrayal ever had. "I wasn't lying to you," he said softly. "I was lying to the world. You're the only person who didn't treat me like a weapon or a wallet. I didn't want to lose that." But she stepped back again, tears burning her eyes. "I can't do this. I don't belong in your world. I'm nobody." And for the first time since she met him, she saw something impossible. Adrian Vale, powerful, untouchable, unbreakable, looked scared. She turned and ran before he could take another step. The very next morning, chaos erupted. Reporters flooded the cafe, flashing cameras, screaming questions. "Is the billionaire's mystery girl working here? Cafe girl dates cold CEO, true or scandal? Is she the reason he's disappearing from the office?" Customers stopped coming. Some insulted her. Some stared like she was a criminal. Her landlord, who had backed off earlier, suddenly demanded triple rent. Her job was at risk. Her dignity was under attack. She sat behind the cafe in the alley, head in her hands, shaking. This is what knowing him did. This is the price of stepping near someone like Adrian. And somewhere across the city, in a glass tower above the clouds, Adrian realized one brutal truth. His love didn't save her. It destroyed her world. That night, rain poured harder than ever. And when Mira opened her door, he was standing there, drenched, silent, holding one thing in his hand. The same simple salad she once made him. The salad that started it all. Rain dripped from his hair, soaked through his clothes, ran down his face, but he didn't move. Adrian stood at her doorway like a man who had finally lost everything except the courage to beg. Mira stared at the salad container in his hand, her breath hitching. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Her voice was tired, not angry, just broken. He swallowed hard. "Because you're hurting. Because I caused it. And because I can't stay away from you even if the whole world burns for it." She wanted to close the door. She wanted to yell. She wanted to hide from him, from the cameras, from the chaos he had dragged into her quiet life. But his eyes, they weren't the eyes of a billionaire. They were the eyes of a lonely, desperate man who had never learned how to love without breaking something. She stepped aside, letting him in. Inside her small, dim apartment, the kind of place no CEO had probably ever seen, he placed the salad gently on the table like it was something sacred. She didn't offer tea. He didn't sit down. Silence did the hurting for both of them. "Mira," he said quietly, "I never wanted to ruin your life. You gave me something I've never had, something real. And I wasn't strong enough to stay away." "You should have told me who you were," she whispered. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Everyone looks at me like I'm a title, a bank account, a weapon. But you treated me like a person. I didn't want to lose that." The sincerity cracked her anger, just a little. But the wounds were still fresh. Outside, the world was already sharpening its knives, calling her names, dragging her background through the mud, twisting every detail to make her look like a gold digger. The next morning, she woke to worse news. A headline blared on every screen. "Poor cafe girl manipulates billionaire CEO. Leaked footage soon." Her phone exploded with messages. Strangers mocked her. Some threatened her. She couldn't breathe. By noon, cameras crowded outside her building. Her cafe job called, apologetic but firm. "We can't have reporters blocking the shop. You can't come to work." Her one safety, her one income gone. Before she could collapse, a black car pulled up. Adrian stepped out, not in disguise, not hiding anymore. And behind him, a wall of security guards blocked the reporters like he was shielding her from the whole world with his body. He held out his hand. His voice was low, steady, promising. "You won't face this alone." But it wasn't just protection he offered, he gave her power. Within hours, he bought the entire cafe, handing her the keys. He called a press conference, standing before the world like a shield. He declared, without hesitation, "If anyone disrespects Mira, they disrespect me." He fired 2 executives who mocked her online. He sued tabloids spreading lies. Mira watched all of this in stunned silence. Not because of his power, but because of his devotion. He didn't hide her. He didn't deny her. He didn't let the world crush her. He stood beside her like she was the only truth he had left. But power invites enemies. Just when things began to settle, Adrian's most dangerous business rival appeared on live news, smirking. "If Adrian continues this foolish romance, I will make sure everything he owns collapses." The threat wasn't empty. Stocks dropped. Investors panicked. Board members demanded Adrian step back. And Mira realized something terrifying. The world wasn't just hurting her anymore. It was tearing him apart too. She looked at him that night, her voice trembling. "Adrian, maybe you should let me go." His answer came instantly, quiet, fierce, absolute. "I'd rather lose my empire than lose you." The world watched closely, waiting to see what the cold, untouchable Adrian Vale would choose, his billion-dollar empire, or the girl who made him taste warmth for the first time in his life. The board cornered him with threats. His rival smirked on national television, promising to crush him. Investors begged him to think rationally. Reporters screamed that love made him weak. But when Adrian walked into the emergency board meeting, Myra's words echoed in his mind. Maybe you should let me go. He knew she was saying it for his sake. She would walk away to save him, even if it destroyed her heart. He entered the room with a calmness that made every executive fall silent. I will not hide her, he said simply. And if that means stepping down, then I step down. The room erupted in chaos. His CFO shouted. His legal advisor panicked. Someone slammed their files on the table. But Adrian didn't waver. For the first time in his life, he chose something for himself, not for power, not for the company, not for legacy, just for love. When the news broke, Adrian failed to resign as CEO. His rivals celebrated too soon. Because Adrian wasn't weak. He was free. And a free man is far more dangerous than a powerful one. Within hours, the rivals' carefully planned attack collapsed because it only worked as long as Adrian cared about controlling the company. Without the throne to protect, Adrian struck back with the full force of someone who no longer played by corporate rules. The rivals' stocks tanked. His board abandoned him. His empire cracked. He underestimated a man fighting for what he loved. Meanwhile, Mira watched everything unfold, tears burning her eyes. She didn't want him to lose everything because of her. She didn't want to be the reason he walked away from a life he built with blood and sacrifice. She found him where their story began, inside the quiet cafe. He was sitting in his old corner seat, wearing the same simple clothes from the first day, hands clasped like he was waiting for something he wasn't sure he deserved anymore. She approached slowly, heart pounding. Adrian, what did you do? He looked up, and she saw it. Relief, exhaustion, and a softness he showed to no one but her. I chose you, he said quietly. I'll always choose you. Power never made me happy. You did. Her breath broke.
Why?
I'm nothing compared to your world. He stood, stepped closer, and held her trembling hands. You are the only thing in my world that ever felt real, he whispered. And if I have to rebuild my life from scratch, I want to build it with you. Her tears fell before she could hide them. He gently wiped them away with his thumb, the same way he wished someone had wiped his tears when he was younger. Then he knelt, not with extravagance, not with cameras, not with diamonds or a show of wealth. Just a simple silver ring shaped like a tiny salad bowl, a playful memory of the moment she unknowingly stole his heart. Mira, he said softly, voice breaking, you gave me kindness when I had nothing inside me except loneliness. Let me spend the rest of my life spoiling you the way no one ever has. She laughed through her tears. I only gave you a salad, and you gave me a future, he finished. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Adrian. Yes. He rose and kissed her as the cafe lights glowed warmly around them, the same place where one simple dish changed 2 lives forever. And for the first time, Adrian Vale didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a man who finally found home.